All right, so we're having our leadership class today, and we are in this season. We are doing all the subtitles for this in the Russian language for these classes. However, we are also broadcasting on Breeze. So if you are here with Serbian or with Chinese or with whatever other language you want to speak, you can just go on to our group channel and you can go up near the top, and there's a link there that says Breeze Translate. You click on that, and you can follow in whatever language that you want to. Okay. So this is for everyone who wants to talk about leadership. Um, Many people want to be leaders, but they do not know what that entails. And we have many leaders who do it very bad. And what happens is many Christians, we sit to the sidelines for whatever reason, and we make what we call a void. And within a void, evil will step up. And that's one of the reasons I believe we have so much bad leadership in this world because Christians refuse to lead. And it's one of my goals and joys is to help prepare this generation and next generation to be godly leaders. Most of you have either children that go to a public school or you yourself go to a public school. Back where I'm from, my father was on the school board, and the influence that he could have, being able to say, listen, I don't think we ought to do that, to give his voice on a school board, a public school board that he has no kids going to. We went to that school, but at that time he had no kids going to that school. But man, where are the Christians? We sit back and we put our hands up and say, well, God will take care of it. But never thinking that maybe God is desiring for us to be able to stand and to be a governor or to be some kind of leader in some kind of capacity. Or maybe it's the fact that maybe many Christians were just selfish with our time and efforts, and we don't see a need for this. Whatever the case is, I mean, I think there's a vast, vast need for godly leadership. Now, you may be in this, either you're here with us tonight or you're on live stream or watching this later, and you ask the question, what's the purpose? Well, it's to make leaders. Now, you may be a lady, you're watching this. Well, what does God want with me? Well, you don't have to be a pastor to be a leader. Now, some of the leadership books that I'm reading and that I'll be showing here are directed towards pastors. But you can take those same concepts and same ideas and put that towards uh, a society or a group that you're in, and not just go with the flow, but with a godly mindset, say, whoa, hang on, let's think about this. That takes leadership. That takes what we would say guts, right? We got a young man sitting over here who has a business, right? And you could operate your business in one of two ways, in a godly way or in a worldly way, right? And my hope is that we as men can operate our businesses, can operate group chats, can operate businesses, whatever the case is, that we can do these things upright and godly, right? But how do we go about doing that? And that's what these 6 weeks are going to be about. These are just 6 weeks long. Every Monday at 7 p.m., we're going to do these lessons. The format is going to be the first part of this. I'm going to be talking about a source. I don't know how to say a source. Um, Either a book or some kind of content that you can go grow yourself. Because honestly, I'm probably, well, not probably, I'm just going to say I'm not the best person to teach this class. And I want to say I apologize to all of you that are listening to this because you deserve better. I'm not a good leader and I am trying to be a godly leader, but I do not have it figured out. I am a person who is trying not to drown, teaching other people how to swim. Okay. Shouldn't be this way. But we need more men who are able to learn and to grow. So, any of these materials that we cover through these next 6 weeks, I would encourage you glance through them, check them out if they're in your language. If you're not in your language, you could always put a request in it. But it's good to have a good Christian material out there that we can read and glean from. There's also a podcast I linked you guys to. It's a Christian leadership podcast. All right, so you guys can watch those, grow those, and then my goal is, well, how do I say this? You're probably even right now in your position or in your position, more than likely, you're probably even a better leader than I am, right? But don't stop there. The goal as a man of God or as a Christian is to always be sharpening your craft. We got a woodworker sitting here, and he's probably says, I know everything there is to know about wood. I don't need to learn anything else. Well, if he says that, that's probably not a good idea. But a wise carpenter would say, I'm always looking how they do these joints, how they fasten these things, what kind of glue do they use? And in every trade, you're always trying to improve what you already have, right? Um, you know, with your craft, you might be looking at what technologies can I use, what kind of things can I incorporate, what kind of systems can I automate, right? Because we're always trying to grow. Why is it any different in our Christian life, especially when it comes to leadership abilities? Now, it may be my daughter. I want my daughter to know how to be a good, godly leader because she's probably going to be leading a little Sunday school class someday, right? Or she may be in some kind of ladies group, or she may be counseling with some lady. Whatever the case is, we've got to know how to move forward. Furthermore, maybe my family, my boys will never be in some kind of official leadership capacity, but because they know what true godly leadership looks like, they can know who to vote for or who to choose as the next leader, rather than simply going on how tall they are, right? We know there's a story in the Old Testament about Israelites, right? They said, God, we want a leader like everybody else has. We want a king. And God's like, no, 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 no. God said, Bre, you don't want that. Okay. And the Israelites were like, no, we want what everyone, we want a king. What they were looking for, they weren't looking for a leader. They were looking for some kind of pretty face to represent them. So they looked out amongst the people and they found someone that was tall and handsome, right? And guess what? That's what they chose. But later down the road, what did God choose? God chose a man that was, the Bible calls it ruddy. Give me the Russian word for that. Ruddy. Zdogo or Rudy. Ruddy. Ruddy? Ruddi? No, I have no idea. My wife, if she's watching, she can message us, or someone message us how you spell ruddy. But yeah. Also, I will say this, that this group that you're on right now, it is meant for you guys to post questions and to ask things that we can do this together in. So anytime you want to make a message or something, you feel free to do that. We have some guys here with us live, and then we have you guys online. All right. So feel free to post something if you want to. You're welcome to do that. All right. So nothing happens in a void. And if we don't stand up, right, then the world's going to stand up. And we need to be men. We need to be men of character, of integrity to what we say we do. I've been accused of that many times, of what I say I don't do. And I agree. I need to be better at that, right? But I think all of us can be able to be someone that you can count on. I want to be able to count on you. Say, you got my back. And I want you to be able to say, I got your back, to be able to lead through this world together. All right. And I think everybody wants a pastor that's growing his leadership skills, and to be able to train others in this. All right. So if you're asking the question, where do we start in creating godly leaders? Where in the world do we start? Well, Israel started with the looks, didn't they? They said, we just want a guy who looks good. Then it's like, this guy, Saul, I think it was Saul. Yeah. Well, I believe the best place to start is by following. The best leaders, I believe, are always made from the best followers. So there's a term we use in the U.S. called a yes man. That's not a popular term. No one likes a yes man, but the Bible is very pro following. Right? We're going to read a part here in the Bible in Luke chapter 16. I want to share something with you. Luke chapter 16, we talk about a servant. I'm not going to read you the whole account. This is a steward, all right? This steward he failed. In a way, he failed his job. In verse 1, it says, there was a certain rich man which had a steward. So the rich man, you could say, was the leader, and he had a servant or a steward, one that took care of his affairs. And the steward was accused that he wasted his goods. He failed. He was given a task, and the steward failed in his task. And he said, whoa, the boss or the rich man said, what happened? Because you're not going to be my steward no more. And the steward in verse 3 was like, man, what do I do? My Lord, he's firing me, you could say. I can't dig. I don't want to beg. What am I going to do? I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have. That's what this guy is going to do here, okay? And he says, I don't know what to do. And he says, when I put out of this stewardship, that they may receive me into their house, that I'll have something. I'm going to do the best. I'm not going to quit. You see this man right here? He didn't say, fine, you don't want me? I'm done. No, he said, what can I do? I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have, even though I failed at my task. So this steward, so we have the rich man, you could call him the leader, right? Then you have the servant under him, the helper. The helper failed, but yet the helper had helpers under him. So this man, he says, he could have said, fine, I'm done. See ya. But no, he said, all right, no, I'm going to do the best I can with what I get. So he called unto his Lord's debtors under him and said, how much do you owe my Lord? So there was these people that owed his master money. And so he was able to go around and he was able to bargain and help get his master one final deal. And that's where this story takes us. And then Jesus uses this and says to his disciples, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in the much. And he that is unjust, you could say manipulating or conniving, or you could say not right, unjust in the least will also be unjust in the much. So I have two boys. I have three boys. Maybe another one coming. I'm just kidding right now. Maybe. But I have two boys, and many times their dealings with each other might be a little bit unjust. Well, I didn't eat all the chocolate. I just ate a little bit, but he ate all of the little bit that was left. So the truth sometimes can be manipulated, can be tricked, but they're just little boys. But if they grow up that way, living their life, just getting by, just barely getting by, what's going to happen? If they are unjust in the least, well, if they become a governor, if they become CEO of the Vos train station, guess what's going to happen? The same thing. Because if you're not faithful in the little bit, you're not going to be faithful in the big bit. You know, one of the things that happened to us before we came to Serbia is we had pastors and churches that would watch our life, and they was looking at us, the little things. Does Brother Miller show up on time? Does he seem to be lazy? Does he keep his word? They're not trying to judge me, but what's going to happen is they're going to be giving me a lot of authority to come to Serbia. And they know the Bible teaches if Matt Miller is unjust, if he's a little bit of a liar, well, I did that, Pastor, but I didn't do it, you know? Then probably biblically, you're probably going to do the same thing when you're in Serbia, right? So the same thing when it comes to leadership. As a pastor, we need leadership in churches, not just this church, but all over the place needs leadership. And as men of God, we've got to be looking for people who are faithful in the little things. Sometimes it's as simple as keeping your word, right? Sometimes it's as simple as showing up on time. Sometimes it's as simple as if you're giving a task, maybe it's to teach or to preach, and you're told to maybe spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Stick within your time. Be faithful. Because if you can't do it now in something little, what makes you think you're going to do it in the big time when you really have to be counted on, or you're the only one that can be depended upon, right? So watch this. Jesus teaches this in Luke 16 and verse 11. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust true riches? He's teaching his disciples to be faithful. I think one of the first things that we need to learn as people, as Christians, in order to be a leader in any capacity, whether your father has a sweet shop and he's trying to leave you in charge of the sweet shop while he's gone, you've got to be faithful, right? You've got to be just in the little things, and then God can use us in the big things. And verse 12 says, if ye have not been faithful in that which is somebody else's, maybe it's ministry. Maybe we have a ministry, right? And you've not been faithful in this ministry, which is somebody else's. What makes God say that you're going to be faithful in your own ministry? You know, everybody wants to have some kind of ministry, to be part of something, but so few are willing to be faithful in the little things. We're talking about leadership. Little faithful Christians grow up to be faithful leaders. Bad faithful Christians grow up to be bad Christian leaders, but there'll always be leaders. There is no void of leadership. No servant in verse 13 can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. I think about my kids with this is, listen, their desire is either for right or for themselves. They can't have both. We're having a pretty difficult time with some stealing, with some chocolate thieves, with some doing things that they know they shouldn't. But they say, "Well, Daddy said." Well, I never said that. I would love to be able to send my boys to the grocery store and say, "Boys, go pick up some milk." You know, go. Here's some money. Go pick up some milk. But there's times I'm like, I can't. For one, I don't know if they're going to run off. Two, I don't know if they're going to go there and spend a bunch of money on candy and eat it before they come home. Because they can't be, sometimes they can't be faithful in the little things. And I don't know how to train them, but these are just my boys. But those little boys grow up into be big boys like you guys, right? And so it's so important that we grasp the fact of being faithful in the little things and holding to God sees all things, and that's more important than what I can get out of it. All right. So, our lesson today is going to be the 6 steps to godly leadership. Step number 1 is learning to follow before you lead. Learning to follow. I'd hate to say learn to be a yes man, but I remember when I was with my pastor, I didn't care. I don't care what a yes man is. What do you need? Okay, I'll do it. I just wanted to be a good servant. I didn't have to debate whether what a yes man was or not a yes man was. When I was an employee and I worked for my boss and he told me he wanted the tiles changed to a different color, I don't have to argue with him. I don't have to tell him that I don't like that color. Guess what I did? Okay, yeah, yes, sir, I'll do it. You could call me a yes man, go for it. That's fine. I don't care. What I wanted to be is a faithful servant, whether that's to my pastor, or whether that's to my boss, to my employer, right? So many times I think there's so many people that when the boss is not looking, they sneak around the back and have a smoke break, right? When the boss isn't looking, all right, let's take a, unjust, wicked. Do what you're told. Wouldn't it be great for you to have some employees? Maybe you do have employees where you could say, hey guys, this is what we need done today. I've got some other things I got to do. And you can trust them, right? These servants that you've got, we'll call them servants, we'll call them employees, the modern day term, right? But you have so much faith in them that whatever needs done, they're working. And then you hear from the homeowner, brother, you've got some good guys here. Man, they were after it. They did good. Nothing slipped by them. I don't know where you got these guys, but you did good. You know what happens? As your business grows, who are you going to put into leadership positions? Those two guys, right? But if they're not faithful in those little things, I think you would agree with me that you would love to have people in business that could be trusted to be leaders. I know for when I was in construction, most of the people that worked for me could care less about the customer or about how things were done. All they cared about was getting paid. That's all they cared about. That's not going to make good leaders. That makes corrupt politicians, but that doesn't make good leaders, right? So, the first thing we're going to do here, now that we've got all that out of the way, is we're going to talk about this book. It's The Spiritual Leader. You'll find it on the Telegram page here. It's Spiritual Leader by Paul Chappell. All right. So, this book is written from a biblical, church-centered leadership perspective. It emphasizes character. It emphasizes submission. Man, there's submission in every area of life. You've got to submit to your boss. You have probably colleagues that have to submit to you, right? You as a man need to submit to your God in leadership. Not gonna like this, but you talk to my wife, she would tell you it's her job as a wife is to submit to her husband. That's the tough one, you know. You ask her whenever you want. Yeah, go ahead and ask her. But we all have to submit. My kids have to submit to me. I have to submit to the police. I got to pay my taxes. I got to submit to my government. So there's submission everywhere. So a good leader knows how to submit himself unto the proper things. And the book also talks about spiritual maturity over ambition or personality. What is ambition? Let me see the ambitia. Yeah, ambitia. This is the idea of like I want to have a ministry. I want to be something. I want to be a teacher. I can just see myself doing this, but yet you have no submission. You have no reserve. You have no faithfulness. And you want to say God's going to put us in a place of leadership? It's difficult. There are lots of people with ambitions, but a true leader knows how to submit his ambitions to follow what you need done. You need this house built. And I want to be a construction worker in Serbia. I want to build houses. I do. And I don't like the way you build houses. I think I could build houses better than you, but I'm working for you. It's a story. All right. I'm working for you, but I'm one of your employees, and I think I can build houses better than you. And my ambition causes me to talk to the owner and say, listen, if you'll hire me, I could do this cheaper for you, better for you. This guy, yeah, he's not doing it right. I've had people do that. Go around your back and say, I could do this better. Their ambition has gotten ahead of their serving. And if they would just stay the course and be faithful, man, you could make him a leader, and that guy can grow, your business grows to be multi-million, and you have no one else to leave it to when you die, so you leave it to his family. And there's a guy that came to see us he's from Vermont, and his name's Eli. And he came over here. He's got 9 kids, I think. And he really didn't have no big education. I think he went to a Bible college, and then he went and worked for a roofer. Okay. His ambition in his life was just to be a good employee and to love God and serve him. And this business owner seen this guy coming to work. He was faithful. He showed up to work. He did his part, right? And this owner, maybe his kids, I don't know if they were drug addicts or they were messed up, But this man had poured his life into this business. It was time for him to retire, and he had nobody, from what I know of the story. So he talks to Eli. Say, Eli, okay, will you take this? Multi-billion dollar type, million dollar, whatever type of, maybe not billion, multi-million dollar company building houses. And he took it. And that's how he was able to take trips back and forth to Serbia to come see us, because he has this money that he's made with this business. But how did it come to be? Not because he was a brilliant man or because he had all this knowledge, but because he had faithfulness. Isn't it crazy how that works? But we're lacking so much of that today. So this book will emphasize, if you read it, if you want to, you can find it different places, whatnot, but submission, spiritual maturity, ambition over personality. So the specific chapter that we're going to use today is chapter 4. Okay. And in this book, he talks about the servant leader. All right. Now, why am I using books like this? Well, because I want you not to stop with these 6 weeks. Just like you're not going to stop learning how to work with wood, he's not going to say, hey, I'm found all the technology I need, I'm done. He's going to constantly grow. So same way with us, we can look towards leadership. Being a spiritual leader is going to make you a better employee. Being a spiritual leader is going to make you a better man that people can count on. And me, right? So that's one of the reasons that and I don't know if Alexandra is watching, but as she goes to Germany, for her to be a spiritual leader in her context, dude, that's what we need. So I'd encourage you, if you want to, go look through more of this, but we're going to focus on only chapter 4. And then the rest of this time, we're going to spend it really in our Bibles here, looking at what the Bible can give us for leadership. So here's some key ideas from this chapter. Leadership is a calling, not a claim. In other words, not everybody that wants to be a leader will make a good leader, right? Leadership is called. In other words, like I talked about your 2 employees, they can't say I'm doing this, but when you see their character and how they're doing a good job and they're being proper, then you call them and to be leaders of a different job site or something. It's a calling. So the same way when God looks at our lives, there may be a young man. You might have in church, you might have 2 men. One man is 20 and one man is 40. Just because he's older does not make him a better leader, because he has his own ambitions. He has his own desires. He doesn't listen. He won't follow. But you have somebody else who says, okay, I want to learn. I'm ready. You see, leadership is a calling, not a claim. It also teaches that authority is learned underneath authority. There's no argument that a lot of missionaries are serving around the world who used to be in the military. Now, because of that, you know what I'm going to say. Because there's a lot of ex-military personnel who are now missionaries and serving God around the world. Sometimes countries will say, oh, they're spies, whatever. But the reason that many times they become missionaries is because they served, whether mandatory or whatever, in a certain country, and they see it and they need. Many cases, these men went into the military not knowing God, lost. And they got into Germany or into Russia or into somewhere and seen death in the face. And they cried out and asked God to save them. Their life got changed. And they began to have a passion for those people. And they came back and they know what authority is. When your general says, walk 3 miles, get this paper, turn and do this, what do? Yes, sir. There's no personal ambition. There's just following orders and saying, all right, let's get this done. And they would have joy in doing their job, right? So authority is learned only under authority. Authority is learned under authority. God prepares leaders through service and submission, and faithfulness in small roles gives a person greater responsibility. We see that in Luke Luke chapter 16. So that's a little bit about this book that's in chapter 4. It just talks about the servant leader. If we're going to talk about the 6 steps to godly leadership, I think the first step should be a servant leader. Someone who says, what can I do? How can I help? And those are the people I believe God chooses to make leaders of other things. All right. Now let's look at the Bible here a little bit. Jesus, we could find leadership begins with following. Jesus did not say, lead and I will improve you. He said this, follow me and I will make you. Follow me and I will make you. Right? That's what Jesus said. So Jesus trained his disciples daily. Their training lasted how many years? 3. Yeah, 3 years. Their teacher was perfect, right? So in that case, if we have a church context and we have people who go from not believing in God to believing in God, and we only get together 2 or 3 times, maybe a week, and they're trained by an in-person teacher, how long would it take to train leaders if Jesus took 3 years to train 12 men every day? You see? This is why I believe leadership, you're going to have to take the wheel on your own. That's why your own personal devotions, your own personal growth. Because if you're just dependent upon what you learn at church, you're not going to make it. If you're only growing by what I feed you, an unperfect leader and teacher, bro, imperfectible. You're going to be trying to use ChatGPT without a keyboard or a mic. Okay, it's just not going to happen. All right. So you've got to be able to follow, to be taught by him, and don't be relying on just me. I want to give you some tools and I want to give you some directions, but you're going to have to take these tools and things. I think of Milian and how he's down there in Kragujevac, and he has his business and stuff that he does. Well, you know what that company needs? They need a godly man that can say, hey, this is how we can do things. This is how we can do things better. You think of Joseph. Kalishnikov talked about Joseph Sunday. How Joseph was not I don't suppose, a very educated man when he went to Egypt, was he? I don't think so. He was a sheep man, from what I understand. Got thrown in a hole, shipped out, lived supposedly 17 years in prison. And then what? He got promoted. Why did he get promoted? Well, because of what he did with his visions with God. But then also, I believe that there's some leadership that God's seen in Joseph to say, I will make you that man. Okay? So I believe we can see this all through Scripture. Here, the example is Joseph. He did not begin as a leader, but he was trained as a follower. When he got called out of prison to serve in the palace, he was a servant. It wasn't his ambition to be king or to be royalty. He just served. It's a simple servant.
He already served in the prison because the keeper gave him the keys from the prison, right?
Yeah, you're right. So Joseph even served in the jail, right? So he's serving, and then he gets promoted to serving. And Pharaoh's like, man, this guy, I'm going to make you, did he say half the kingdom or something? Or maybe I'm getting a different Bible story mixed up. But he became a pretty prominent leader. And I think it was Potiphar's household. So at 17 years old, he was sold into slavery. At age 30, he was elevated to leadership. So he was in training for 13 years of his life, you could say, in servant training, all right? In home, in a prison, and in obscurity. God prepared the man before he entrusted him with authority. In many cases, we get too tired of waiting. I remember going to church in the U.S., and when I came in, there was already a man that my pastor was training. Okay. And I came in kind of like, bloop, there he is. And my pastor was training him and training him and training him. And then I came in and I'm being trained for a different purpose. He was being trained for a different purpose, two different purposes. Well, I came in about 2 or 3 years, I'm sent out to come to Serbia, but his training continued. And sometimes he's like, it could be like, I'm tired of this. I want to do something. And then it kind of breaks that relationship and goes off because the ambition got ahead of the authority, right? And when God looks at that, he says, why would I want to use someone whose ambition is more important than their authority? So here's some questions. So we're going to be done here. We're about out of time. Well, we got plenty of time, but I'm going to end here soon. So Paul Chappell, in his book, he emphasizes that God watches how a person serves before leadership is ever given. Submission is a test, not a setback, and authority is entrusted, not demanded. Joseph's life confirms this truth. Godly leaders are shaped by submission before they're ever placed into authority. A good leader knows what it's like to be a good follower. Leadership. What leadership books like this one, they talk about, the Bible can explain it. So let's give some heart check questions. These are just questions that you guys can ask yourself, your own heart. Are you ready? Be prepared to cry. It's okay. You can cry. Are you ready to cry? He's like, no, I don't cry. So we're real men, right? Leaders don't cry. We do. Yeah. Right. The older we get, yeah. All right. So here's some self-diagnostic questions that you can wrestle with. Did I say it right? Every time I speak and you squint like that, I'm thinking I said something. Okay. Self-diagnostic. All right. Now I got you. Heart check questions for church members. Do you want to lead? Some of you will say, no, not really. If I was to ask you to do it, would you? Would you be willing? If you were the Joseph and I said, will you be willing to do this? Would you say, I don't want to? That's not me. I don't want to do that. Or would you be the person that says, why hasn't he asked me to lead yet? Because there's multiple types. This one I'm asking you is why, if you are that person that says, I want to lead, I want to be a leader. Can I ask you this? Why? Why? Why are you not content in just serving? It may be God's will never to have you in any position at all. Would that bother you? You know, would it bother you if God never asked you to be a Sunday school teacher, never asked you to be a song leader, never asked you to put you in any single position? Would it bother us? It shouldn't bother us. As long as we're following the Lord and we're living for Him. But then also, if you're ever called upon, brother, we need you. Can you help us with this? Can you be faithful every Sunday to take care of this situation? Would you be willing and able to do that? But going back to the person who says, I want to lead, let me ask you these questions. Do you desire leadership because you feel called to serve or because you want influence? Sometimes deep down inside, it's a desire to influence. You know, you look at TikTok, you look at YouTube, you find people wanting to influence people everywhere. Even Facebook, even mothers who are retired are like, look how many followers I have on Facebook. Look at the joy I have. Why? There's that desire to influence. Why is that there? Why is Facebook followers so important? You think about that. Is that from the Lord? Or is that just from a personal self-fulfilling desire, you know? Am I more excited about a position or about preparation? I remember sometimes when I was dating my wife, it was like I was so excited to get married that the dating or the spending time with her to getting to know her sometimes can be fast, right? Sometimes you're so excited to get the position or to get this, but the preparation is a pain. What about finding joy in the preparation? What a waste of life if Joseph spent his life and all that training but never enjoyed it. Enjoying the preparation. Would I serve with the same vivacity? Is that even a word? Vigor. We'll go with vigor. Okay, thank you. Would I serve with the same vigorosity? I'm just kidding. With the same rigor, whatever, if my role was not seen by anybody? If nobody's seen what I do, would I care as much? You know, there's some church people I've met who take care of like church taxes, church billings. Nobody really cares. Nobody knows who they are, but they just keep doing it. It's a tough job. And many times they don't get paid for it. They just do it because they love the church. No one knows. Nobody cares. You know? Man, I like to be around those people. There's such a joy because they have joy in that serving, you know? I think sometimes we miss out on that joy of the preparation, you know? Um, do I welcome correction? You shouldn't have done it that way. You were wrong. Do I welcome correction or do I quietly resist it? All right. I'll do what I want when you're not watching. I'll make it happen. You won't know. That's not a leadership quality. You may get to be a leader someday, but it's not because God put you there. The Bible says God resists the proud and he gives grace to the humble. Here's a question for you. Am I patient? Am I patient with God's timing? Or do I get frustrated by delay? Things aren't going as fast as I wanted to. I was hoping to be here by now and I'm still waiting. What's the deal? Is it your fault, Matt Miller? Is it this person's fault? Why? And you get frustrated by delay. Why? Why do you get frustrated? Why are you not calm? Lord, teach me. Give me patience. Grow me in your time. Here's a question. Do I love people more than recognition? Think about these questions. Now, we're ending here. This is it. You can give your test. I'm going to post these questions on the page, and then you guys can answer those on your own time. Test of the heart. How God reveals our readiness for leadership. God often tests our heart before he trusts us with leadership. He knows our heart. He knows why we want to do this. He knows why we don't want to do this. There are some people right now who God wants them to step forward, but they don't want to because they're happy. They're content. I don't want problems. I don't want to step forward. But God, I believe, is asking them, step up. Or as we say, Angleski, Човек gore. Man up, whatever that would be in Serbian. Man up, okay? But there are some people that say, I'm ready to go. And then God says, slow down. Breathe. Tiši se. Miri se. Right? So, the test of approval. I'm going to post these here. You guys can answer those and struggle with them. Maybe if you're with a friend tonight, maybe with your wife, go through these questions. Okay? Go through these questions and test yourself how you're doing with servant leadership. Okay? Here's some of the questions. The test of removal. How do I respond when leadership role is taken away? Number 2, the test of disappointment. How do I respond when I'm overlooked or passed over? Brother Miller stood up today and he thanked the piano player. He thanked the people who cleaned the floor. He thanked the guy who changed the lights, but I cleaned the dishes. He never thanked me. How do you respond to that? Think about that. The test of disappointment. How do I respond when I'm overlooked or passed over? Number 3, the test of authority. How do I respond to decisions that I do not agree with? How do you respond? The test of correction. How do I respond when I'm corrected by leadership? The test of obscurity. Am I willing to serve faithfully with no promise of upgrade, no future, and nobody notices? The test of obscurity. How about the test of waiting? Am I patient with God's timing? Or am I ready to go? God, I want now. I'm tired of waiting. I've been waiting for so many years. I'm done waiting. And God, if you don't move this year, then I'm going to do it myself. Wow. How's your waiting? Are you patient with God's timing? So just give yourself a loving but honest review. And a repeated failure in these tests that I just indicated will show that our training is not finished yet and that our heart is not prepared for leadership. So it's not a rejection, it's grace. God delays leadership, not to harm us, but to protect us and to protect those around us as well.
Do you have a list of those?
I do. I'm going to post these. Yep. You guys can go through these. Summary. God's leadership begins with faithful followers. Submission comes before authority. Many people, I was a self-contractor. I was like you. I got my own work, did my own things, but many people do that because they do not want to submit. Not because it's the work they like, but because they don't want a boss. I don't want to be told what to do. I want to have my own thing. I want to have my own authority. Well, when they do that, many times they have problems with their what do you call it? Their clients, right? No, this is the better way. Your ideas are dumb. My ideas are the best. You've not really learned submission and you've not learned authority. So God has a reasons for why he does things. Service comes before recognition, and character is formed before a calling is fulfilled. So this is the starting of the first lesson of the 6 steps of godly leadership. Hope this has been a blessing. We need godly leadership. We need godly leaders, whether they feminine, masculine, all in their proper spaces and proper times and spots, right? God needs them. He's asking for it. He's looking for them. I believe he's begging for them. But it's up to us to learn our lessons and grow into the place where God can use us and call us into the next zone. Appreciate you guys. Stay faithful. May God bless you guys, and we'll see you next week, Mondays. And that's it. I'll post those here in a second. God bless you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Ciao.